Howdy folks, thank you for tuning in to Homesteading at the Black Sheep Meadow. I'm Brent.
And I'm Amber.
And we got a good one for you today.
We have a great one today.
So today's video topic is actually getting the homestead prepared for the future. And here we are in late fall, early winter, first week in December actually. And basically we're at the end of our harvest season for 2023. You know, most of our poultry, our big ticket items in the garden, that's all been processed and done for the year. So now we're preparing for spring.
We are, and this is a good time to sit, even though we've completed a lot in the garden per se, but we still have a lot of work to do, and part of that is taking inventory of the seeds that we have for next year. And we have, because of the way we're trying to grow our food, we are not just growing tomatoes. We're not just growing one variety of a lot of things. We have a lot of seeds, and we forget what you have and how much. Did you run out of those this year? Do we need to order more? Homesteading has become really popular, and last year we saw quite a bit where seed quantities or quantities were low.
Correct.
So we weren't able to get maybe as many of the seeds as we wanted, or maybe a particular variety. So we're trying to do due diligence and order that type stuff now ahead of time. Matter of fact, just this morning he ordered our first round of meat chickens for next year, and the poultry was a big one last year.
Correct. Poultry got tight last year.
Like if you decided in February that you wanted to raise some of your own meat chickens, and you went on to any of the hatcheries and you went to order meat chickens, they were 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks out before you could get a set of meat chickens, and that might not fit in with your schedule and weather and all of the things that you need to take into consideration. So we just ordered ours for February of next year.
Correct.
End of February.
End of February, 1st of March.
1st of March.
Now, to get y'all up to date, I've said this 1,000 times this year, but for the year 2023, we are attempting to produce or grow 80% of all of our own food. And that leaves us with, I think it's 2,920 pounds of total food that we need for, that's where I calculated 80% for two of us. But obviously, anybody can grow 3,000 pounds of potatoes and say, hey, you produce 80% of your own food. I left it very strenuous upon us that I wanted to grow what we eat. You know, anything that we would normally eat, pick up from a grocery store, I want to be able to produce that for us. That's how I looked at it from our point of view. So for the year 2023, excluding our meats, this is just garden vegetables, we did 23 different types of garden vegetables, with a total of those 23 different types had a total of 57 different varieties. So we had an atomic red carrot, we had a tender sweet carrot or an imperator, a couple different types of broccoli. To give you an idea, potatoes had 4 or 5 different varieties. Tomatoes, that was a big one. I think we had 6 different varieties of tomato this year.
Part of that's my fault.
So that's where we're getting into. Now we're at the later part of the season. It's a little bit slower. The weather's still pretty decent out right now. But we're going through our seeds and determining what we need for next year, what's old, what we need to order new.
So we keep our seeds pretty organized. I have this photo case that I actually, labeled, and we put all of our seeds in and store them. But a lot of this is completely full now.
Just to show you the case. Yeah. And of course it'll have the seeds in it as we needed.
And I keep these little craft paper envelopes. I keep these on hand for when the bag gets too ripped and it needs to go into a bag to keep it from spilling everywhere. But this is completely full, and some of our seeds we buy in bulk, like corn seeds.
Corn becomes a problem because
it would take up the whole thing.
To give you an idea, this year, y'all can look in our videos past where not only did we grow corn for us, but we grew corn for a lot of our poultry feed, as well as Milo as well. This coming year, not only are we going to change the corn that we're growing for us, our sweet corn, which we do use some of our regular field corn for, like cornmeal and fish batter, that type of stuff. But a lot of our corn is going to change this year. We're going to go to a Reed's yellow dent corn, which is very similar to the Cherokee dent that I've grown in the past. And our sweet corn, we've moved from a bodacious sweet corn, which I know I've talked to y'all about that. It is an excellent corn, the best tasting corn I've ever had. Grocery store, anywhere. I mean, it's just excellent.
It's fantastic.
But it's so difficult for us to grow here in this region. I've just had pest problems that I cannot overcome. So we're switching variety of corn this year to something that is reported to be a little more pest resilient.
A little bit better for our zone or our area.
That being said, we're going to be planting over 6 pounds of corn seed this year.
So that would take this up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So I think I might actually look into getting some other types. This is really good for small, lots of variety.
Cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, the small seeds. This works great.
And I'm thinking maybe some of those plastic shoe boxes. That they're nice and tight. They'll keep pests and stuff out of them. And the other thing that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at seed storage is these need to be kind of climate controlled.
Correct.
You don't want them to be exposed to direct sunlight. You don't want them exposed to moisture. So having a case like this is very user friendly.
So I know it's very popular for a lot of people to put seeds in their freezer. We have done that in the past and we've had great success with it. That being said, some of our freezer seeds were basically they were contaminated with too much moisture.
Right. So you have to watch that if you're going to put them in the freezer.
Really careful with that. So we have found that using it in this type of case, leaving it in a dry area with zero sunlight, really, you don't need any sunlight. But if you can maintain a more specific temperature, a temperature that's not fluctuating, I think is the real key to seed storage and getting it prolonged for a long time.
Underneath, in a closet, underneath a bed, in a corner somewhere where they're out of direct light and they're kind of in a more climate controlled environment. You don't want to just, heat's not good for them. So
the sunlight that's out here right now, I mean, this is going to be momentarily, it's not the end of the world, but this is about the most sunlight that they're going to see between now and the time that they're going to get planted or used up. And I will say, even keeping the seeds in correct conditions, now every seed is going to have its own timeline. But to have the highest success rate or the highest germination rate out of the seed, I would say no more than 5, 6, 7 years tops. Obviously, there's been seeds found on planet Earth that are hundreds or even thousands of years old that still were able to germinate, but the germination rate was so low or so minute on that, it wouldn't be a successful yield.
Right. And most of the time your seed, whoever you purchase your seed from, they will give you an idea, like the germination rate of these mustard greens is 80%.
Yeah.
So that just means that on average 80% of the seeds that you plant will actually germinate. So you take that into consideration when you're planning and how many seeds to plant, how, that all goes into play when you're planting your garden. But yeah, so going through our inventory, getting back to that.
57 varieties.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a lot.
So we have a lot going on here, and when you're at home and you're looking, the advertisement for Will Height pops up, and you decide to order seeds, and at night you order on accident a pound of lettuce seed.
I think you actually ordered a 1/4 pound of lettuce seed.
It's a lot. it was spinach. I'm sorry, it was spinach. I ordered like enough spinach for us to last a very long time. So we don't need any more spinach seeds.
But we need to know these things. So like we said, the inventory at a lot of these different places is becoming very thin. It's a good thing. There's a lot of people choosing the homesteading lifestyle, providing for themselves, trying to become self-sufficient. That's a great thing.
It's awesome. And then we also go into some seeds harvesting of our own.
Correct. If y'all remember last year, this is a rant video that I did where I harvested all of our Blue Lake green beans. And we're going to replant those. I'm going to do this in a really controlled environment because I want to see the success rate of the germination rate from our harvested seeds versus what we get from Will Height. Once again, Will Height has been one of our favorite seed suppliers. There's many out there. I can tell you I prefer to go to a specific seed supplier rather than a box store. Maybe some of your small mom and pop garden shops will be okay, but I can tell you some of the box store stuff that I've seen in the past where, like say, the Fairy Morse or the Burpee seeds are in the cardboard cases. I have seen it where they are getting directly sprayed by the irrigation systems in the garden area and left in direct sunlight. And of course, we have, not saying nothing bad about the seed company itself, but it's the way they were handled afterwards. The success rate or the yield or the germination rate of those seeds just have not been successful.
It gets affected. That is not to say that we won't pick some of those up. If I'm in a store and I see a seed that looks very interesting to me,
there's always impulse buys.
There's an impulse buy there, and it might be a burpee seed or it might be, a zucchini. I really like those zucchini grillers. And I'll check the date and make sure that it looks like it's pretty healthy and it's, maybe it's inside the store, not outside the store. So we will still buy those, but we're definitely not expecting a full germination rate as guaranteed on the package or as stated on the package.
Yep.
So we do keep that in mind, and we do have quite a bit in here that we found that looks good.
So far, we're going to continue in the future. Whether we hit our goal of 80% this year or not, we're still going to continue this into the future. I don't think the homesteading and being self-sufficient lifestyle is not going anywhere for us for quite some time.
No, I don't know if we'll be so strict about weighing every single thing.
Yes, we were very strenuous on ourselves this year, but for the future, obviously we've got a really good idea the quantity that we need to grow, and this was really a productive garden year. We had some really good weather early on in the spring. We were able to produce abundance of crops and certain things we're going to increase next year.
Right.
That being said, you know, it's not all serious business all the time. We have to grow this to provide our own food. As of right now, there still is a grocery store available. So we're going to experiment with a few things. We're going to keep it fun.
Right. So we try to, like, I like to experiment with different types of tomatoes or zucchinis. Brent really likes the melons.
Correct.
So he has been trying a bunch of different types of melons. I'm not a huge fan of cantaloupe. He loves it, so he kind of finds different ones.
It's the first week in December, and we have our last Crimson Sweet watermelon that we just harvested this past weekend.
Yep.
And it was a volunteer plant from a Crimson Sweet watermelon that we grew this spring, early summer, that I ate. I spit the seed off the front porch, and we just had a volunteer watermelon out in the middle of the yard. I cannot wait to grow or to mow that section of grass because it's been really bugging me. But I want to try a banana cantaloupe this year. That's a Will height. Once again, that seed was not available last year. I couldn't order it. And then I'm going to do a orange crisp watermelon.
Ooh.
So that is actually, we grew the orange crisp watermelon this past spring, but we only had one successful plant of it. And it produced really tiny melons, but I'm going to try and amp that up this year to see. Obviously, the orange crisp watermelon that we had this past year was delicious. So once again, you know, we're just getting prepared for the future, 2024, and this is where it starts. I encourage y'all very much, you know, look forward, stop looking at just what's happening right now on the homestead, look forward to the future and plan for it.
It's a good time of year to do this. It's just a really good time of year to do this. So folks, if y'all like the message that we're trying to spread out there about being self-sufficient, non-governable, and, you know, supplying for yourself, get off the system. Yes. You know, go ahead and like, subscribe, ring the little bell for notifications so y'all see us here every week. Let us know if you guys are doing something similar.
Yep.
We'll see y'all next week.